Participatory evaluation is applied social research that involves a partnership between trained and practice-based decision makers, organization members with program responsibility, or people with a vital interest in the program. In simpler terms, it is merely members of two different professional communities working in partnership. Participant evaluation is an umbrella term consisting of a variety of approaches that focus on direct and active participant involvement, providing multiple perspectives of knowledge and truth. It is best suited for formative evaluation, which helps build internal evaluation capacity through participant ownership, helping obtain buy-in and involvement of all stakeholders.
Stake's countenance model was basically a framework that was intended to guide the evaluator, thinking with the intent of the evaluator comparing the program with the actual outcomes and observed in action. It's notable because Stake intended for the evaluators to understand the program in addition to evaluating it. This will humanize the process and put them in contact with the stakeholders. The countenance model led to the responsive evaluation, in which it was a more flexible and adaptive program that included the stakeholders, local attributes, and heavily used case studies. Considering local circumstances is something we see an awful lot in the research we've been reading for our courses. Stake has been criticized for yielding too much power to the stakeholders while retaining design for himself. The naturalistic and fourth generation approaches continued Stake's work by moving away from quantitative methods and a shift to qualitative data with a focus on having criteria to judge. Authenticity began to rely on an evaluator's fairness to the various stakeholders by representing their views and values, educating stakeholders about each other's views, and reaching a consensus.
All forms of participatory evaluation can be divided along three dimensions. Number one being the control of the evaluation itself. Number two, the selection of stakeholders to be involved. And number three, the depth of the participation of those stakeholders, i.e. in what capacity do stakeholders participate.
Contemporary PE approaches can be divided into two primary streams, practical and transformative. Practical approaches include stakeholders to improve their practical understanding and use of the evaluation. Transformative approaches involve stakeholders for political reasons, to empower them by providing tools to change their reality. Each stream consists of its own unique theories, objectives, and procedures. Both streams involve extensive stakeholder participation, but the two diverge in their primary objectives and internal structures. The practical stream emphasizes a lateral partnership, while the transformative stream may give more decision-making authority to stakeholders.
The practical approach is appropriate for making decisions for program improvement and acknowledging the need for adaptation. Its purpose is not political and encourages organizational learning and change. The evaluator acts as technical support and provides quality control, and helps with training to develop the knowledge and skills of stakeholders for future evaluations.
Transformative practices are intended to evaluate, but they are trying to bring about social change, changing power structures by reducing the role of management in outside organizations. Transformative evaluators serve primarily as consultants who relinquish power so that stakeholders control it, and the evaluation also provides stakeholders greater knowledge, skills, and power. Its goal is to seek input and consideration from as many stakeholders as possible. The deliberative democratic approach is a notion that theory and practice should reflect the society in which it functions, in our case, democracy. Evaluation can be pivotal in the betterment of society. It tries to include as many stakeholders and citizens that are involved. It tries to encourage dialogue and discussion to reveal stakeholder interests and to deliberate. The school board had instituted a school choice initiative that had sort of descended into an academic achievement and college prep system, which excluded many members of society. In this approach, stakeholders were gathered together for a dialogue, the result being a centralized enrollment system which was viewed as more democratic because it was balanced schools enrollment and moderated racial stratification.
An empowerment evaluation approach aims at increasing the probability of achieving program success by providing program stakeholders with the necessary tools for planning, implementation, and self-evaluation of the program. It focuses on building the capacity of all stakeholders and essentially empowers them to use evaluation to bring about program improvement.
A prominent limitation of the participatory approach is the concern for bias. Stakeholders' views may skew the design, the results, or the interpretation of the evaluation. Participants may also lack the expertise needed to design, implement, or interpret the evaluation. This can add time and cost to the process.
Author Brisarola argues that rather than harp on the bias, evaluators should recognize that our values impact everything we do. It guides the interpretation of the results. Someone values honest, influence-neutral approach. However, she is writing from the perspective of a supporter of transformative evaluation. But her point is valid. Recognition will improve the results.
Finding and involving a fair representation of stakeholders can also be a challenge, and reports indicate that the most disenfranchised groups are less likely to participate in evaluations. There is also the threat of conflicting interests or miscommunications between participants. By contrast, one of the most prominent strengths of this approach is the potential for stakeholders to bring knowledge and perspectives that improve the validity of the study. Furthermore, PE can help develop skills and build capacity. Cousins claims that this approach helps foster self-determination and action. Fitzpatrick also points out that involving stakeholders helps them gain trust in the evaluation so that it may be used effectively. And several authors have reported findings that indicate greater use when stakeholders are more involved in the process, which also provides formative feedback along the way. To conclude, PE consistently includes a variety of stakeholders in the planning and implementation stages, though there are many variations to this approach. Many theorists encourage adaptation of the model to the local contexts, so evaluators must consider the particular type that best fits the objectives of their study.
To conclude our presentation on participant-oriented approach, we have posted 3 questions that will hopefully transpire into deeper thought and inquiry and further discourse regarding the information we have presented throughout. According to Fitzpatrick, Sanders, and Worthing, participant evaluation is here to stay, and we want you to know why.